Let's start with a quote that really just nails it. As the public health impact of anxiety and its disorders continues to rise, so does the demand for intervention science. Basically, as this issue gets bigger, the need to understand how to help gets more and more urgent.
So today, we're going to trace the path of anxiety, all the way from the simple questions a doctor might ask you to the cutting-edge science that's trying to perfect our treatments. And let's be real, anxiety isn't just something individuals struggle with anymore. It's a massive public health concern. Its impact is getting wider, which is exactly why we have to get a handle on the best ways to spot it and treat it. It's critical stuff. So where do you even start? Well, for a lot of clinicians, the conversation kicks off with this really common but powerful tool called the GAD-7. It's just a simple 7-question check-in to help get a sense of what's going on. The whole thing is built around this one simple idea. It asks you to think back over just the last 2 weeks. And as we run through these questions, you'll see how they cover everything from what's going on in your head to how you're feeling physically. So first up, number 1, it starts with that classic core feeling, being nervous, anxious, or just on edge. Then it gets a little more specific. What about not being able to stop or control the worrying? And is that worry kind of all over the place? You know, worrying too much about a bunch of different things? It also checks in on the physical side. Number 4, just plain old trouble relaxing. Or maybe it's that feeling of being so restless, it's literally hard to sit still. It also touches on your mood, like becoming easily annoyed or irritable. And finally, number 7 gets at that deep sense of dread, that feeling that something just awful is about to happen. Okay, so how do you actually score this thing? Well, it's super simple. Each answer gets a point value, from 0 for not at all the way up to 3 for nearly every day. You just add them all up for total score. And this is the number that really matters. 8. A score of 8 or more is kind of the threshold. Now, that doesn't automatically mean you have an anxiety disorder. Not at all. But it is a signal that maybe it's a good idea to have a deeper conversation with a professional.
And that score also helps put things into perspective. 0 to 4 is considered minimal anxiety, 5 to 9 is mild, and if you're at 10 or higher, that suggests moderate to severe symptoms. It just gives a clear picture of what's going on.
All right, so you've identified the issue. Now what? Well, let's talk about one of the heavy hitters in treatment. It's a really powerful approach called exposure therapy. The whole idea is pretty much right there in the name. It's about systematically facing the things that scare you, whether that's a situation, a thought, whatever. But, and this is the absolute key, you do it without falling back on those old safety habits, like just avoiding the thing altogether. And this really breaks it down, right? On one side, you've got avoidance. It feels safe in the moment, but it's what keeps the fear alive and kicking. On the other side, you have approach, and that's the heart and soul of exposure therapy. It's all about retraining that instinct. But why? I mean, really, how does facing your fear actually make it less scary? You know, it's not enough for scientists just to know that something works. They want to pop the hood and see exactly how the engine is running. And this is where the research gets really cool. The key phrase here is mechanisms of change. Think of it like this. You can have a recipe for the best cake in the world, and it works. But a real master chef wants to understand the chemistry. Why does adding the salt at that specific moment make it taste better? That's what scientists are trying to figure out for therapy. So one of the big ideas is something called extinction. Now, this doesn't mean you just forget the fear or erase it. It's more about learning something new. It's your brain realizing, hey, with enough practice, this fear alarm doesn't have to blare so loudly forever. It can actually fade. Then there's another powerful one, expectancy violation. Anxiety is often your brain just screaming, something terrible is going to happen. Well, exposure therapy gives you a chance to test that theory. You get to see that the awful thing you were so sure was going to happen, well, it doesn't. Your brain's worst case scenario gets proven wrong. And all of this builds up to another huge piece of the puzzle, self-efficacy. Because every single time you face that fear and come out the other side, you're not just learning about the scary thing, you're learning about yourself. You're building this deep down belief that you can handle tough situations, that you've got this. And look, this isn't just for textbooks. This is incredibly important because if we can figure out exactly why and how this therapy works for different people, we can start to supercharge it. We can tailor it to fit you personally. This is how we get to truly personalized mental health care. Which really brings us to this big final question.
If science can truly master the how, if we can perfect our understanding of these mechanisms, what kind of future could we build? Can we actually get to a place where mental health treatment is no longer a one-size-fits-all solution, but is perfectly, precisely designed for every single person who needs it?